enforcement and to you.
Well,
so that was a mistake.
I don't see it as a mistake. I see it as something working with the public to identify that there was a subject
So if
in
you
custody.
put out a statement that says we've got our man, and in fact it turns out that you didn't have your man, that's not a mistake?
But that's not what I said.
Well, I'll go on. That's my understanding. A second thing that is really important in the FBI, but it's important in every agency, is that the folks who are doing good work get supported for the work they're doing. And a number of highly successful FBI agents have been let go. And I want to just ask you a little bit about that. You know who Brian Driscoll is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And my understanding is he served at the FBI for over 18 years. You agree?
I believe that's accurate.
Special agent in charge of the Newark office. He was commander of the FBI's hostage rescue team. That's a very prestigious and responsible position, correct?
It is.
Section chief of the Critical Incident Response Group's tactical section. You've got to be pretty good to get that high responsibility. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
He oversaw 55 SWAT teams, and they're like the elite of the elite, right? They go in to the dangerous situations, right? He got a Medal of Valor for his participation in a raid on ISIS terrorist Abu Sayyaf, who had kidnapped American citizens Kyla Mueller, right? Mueller? Is that right?
I know.
You're in agreement, right?
I know Kayla Mueller's family, yes. I know the situation.
Okay, and he got Kurt Meyer, somebody who had barricaded himself in a bar after he killed 4 people and wounded 2. And Driscoll was part of the team that went in there and took that guy out, right?
I don't have all the details, but I'll take your word for it, Senator.
And he got into trouble when Emil Bove demanded a list of FBI agents who investigated January 6th and was apprehensive that what did happen ultimately would happen, and that is those folks would get fired. I mean, do you agree with me that a boss who stands up for his subordinates when they did the job that was asked of them is a stand-up person and somebody to be admired?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
But Driscoll got fired, right?
Again, that matter is under litigation, and the matter you referenced occurred before I was
Okay, but
director.
let's just keep it really narrow here. He's fired, right?
Yes, he was terminated.
And he has to be, there's somebody communicates to him that he's terminated, correct?
That's my job.
That's your job. So you communicated to him that he was fired.
I did.
So, I have a hard time with this because that record suggests to me that this person is like worthy of consideration for the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he got fired.
But there's also a record of other information that was available, and now that this matter is pending litigation, we will get that out in due course. But as you can agree.
So you've got, quote, other information that you see as a valid basis to fire somebody who, from what I can tell, had an absolutely outstanding record and who crossed the threshold of getting in trouble because he was standing up for agents serving under him who did work that was assigned to them that happened to be related to the January 6th uprising.
Again, you're correlating based on your information the reasons for his termination, and I'm telling you.
No, that's right. Let me ask you another question. When you were here, you were rightly critical, not here actually, I guess it was on Cash's corner. You were rightly critical of the way that the previous FBI director used the FBI jet. And you said you wanted to ground Chris Wray's private jet travel that he pays for with taxpayer dollars to hop around the country. Let me ask you this. On the weekend of, according to flight tracker data, on the weekend of March 7th, an FBI plane flew round trip from D.C. to Las Vegas, and you attended a UFC fight with Mel Gibson, and I'll show you that. Is that you, and is that true?
Yeah, you want to know the difference? I live in Las Vegas. I'm allowed to go home. I didn't leave a congressional hearing early on an FBI jet to dodge questions.
All right. Then on April 5th, you attended a hockey game in New York City. You don't live there, right?
No, I don't.
By the way, everyday FBI agents who are assigned in Washington don't get to fly home on a private jet.
Well, this is a great point. Do you know why I have to use a private jet? Because Congress made it mandatory.
Okay. In April 5th, well, we didn't make it mandatory that you go to UFC games with Mel Gibson.
Are you telling me I can't go home?
You got to use some judgment here.
So when I'm at home, I can't do what I'm doing when I go home. Everybody else is allowed to go home, just not me.
Let me keep going. No, I'm glad you go home. I love to go home. But I don't go home on a private jet. On April 5th,
you're not mandated to do so.
You attended a hockey game in New York City with Wayne Gretzky. And Flight Tracker says the FBI jet took you to and from New York City, where you don't live, right?
That's correct.
And on April 12th, on the following weekend, you attended a UFC a fight in Miami, also on the FBI jet, right?
That's correct.
So what's the cost to the taxpayer for those 3 flights?
But I pay the commercial equivalent per the regs and the law. And so just so you know, when you are comparing me to prior directors.
I asked what the cost was, and you don't know, I take it.
Yeah, and what I've done with the use of the private jet is use Andrews Air Force Base versus Reagan National as what the other directors have done to save the taxpayer dollars.
Bottom line here, you flew home to Las Vegas. There's nobody else in the FBI who gets paid. They have to pay their own way if they want to go home, right? I mean, right?
Well, that's not accurate. Depending on where you're stationed, the FBI covers the bill to get home.
So are you telling me that FBI agents who are assigned in Washington, but who may live in Charlotte, they get paid by the FBI to
Sometimes they do, yes.
Right. Another thing I want to say is this. Our local law enforcement has been stiffed. About $500 million in COP grants have been taken out of the budget. Those really help us in Burlington. They help us in Rutland. They really are important. And why in the world would we be cutting those COP grants when we need that local law enforcement, in part to partner with you?
Well, I think
you support that?
I think you're speaking to the Department of Justice grants, which I don't adjudicate, but also Vermont, just like every other state, has received a plus-up of FBI personnel.
Well, I'll tell you, that's not what we're seeing. The other thing, my understanding is that there's a requisition or an effort to get another plane for the FBI that would cost about $72 million. Is that right?
That's inaccurate. The FBI, because the jet, as you call it, is not my jet. We use it for operational needs. We use it for FTOX. We use it for HRT.
But that's the one you fly in, right?
We have multiple fixed-wing assets, and one of them is on a wildly expensive lease that I deemed a waste of money, and I'm looking for a replacement in which the government can procure assets permanently.
Well, I would welcome you submitting to this committee the cost information about the jets that are under consideration. And according to our research, the specifications that are included in this request would result in an expenditure of between $72 million and $80 million.
That's inaccurate, but I'll happily get you the right numbers.
I welcome getting the specific information.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
This use of this airplane has come up.
Mr. Chairman, Mike.
It's on, but I can get closer. Comey became FBI director 2013, and then something like when I became ranking member in the middle of a Congress, or I was ranking member, Comey needed an excuse to come to Des Moines, Iowa, or someplace in Iowa for a family reunion. He wanted to meet with me in Waterloo, Iowa. I think nothing more than an excuse to say he did something official on that trip. Now, I can't accuse him of that because I don't know, but I can't recall that we discussed anything very serious that had to be meet him in Waterloo or Cedar Rapids at the airport before he went to the reunion. And then 2 or 3 years ago, Ray was sitting where you were, and we had 2 Republicans wanted to have second round of questioning, and it would have taken about 10 minutes, and he refused to because he got on this airplane that you're talking about going to the Adirondacks. So I find interesting that my Democratic colleagues seem to bring up about your use of the Justice Department planes, yet my Democratic colleagues didn't seem too interested about my oversight of Ray's use of the plane. I didn't hear a peep. So my Democratic colleagues need to be consistent.
Can I just add, Mr. Chairman, that when you compare the flight logs and the percentage of work travel to personal travel for the prior 2 FBI directors, over a third of their travel was personal on those same jets that I'm being accused of improperly utilizing. My mark is far less than that. Also, both of those directors use Reagan National Airport, which has landing fees of $5,000 to $10,000 because they didn't want to drive 25 minutes to Andrews. We take off and land in Andrews every single time because it's cheaper, and we do so because it saves the taxpayer dollars. Those are the things we are doing to make sure that we are good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And also, any new acquisition of an airline or a fixed-wing asset for the FBI will specifically meet the needs of the demands of the foreign FTOC operations and hostage rescue operations in our critical infrastructure programs.
Senator Moody.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
You're very patient.
I am very patient. You're very patient. I'm new here to the Senate, and I watch what you have to go through as chairman, and we thank you. A lot of what we're talking about today, and you've been questioned about, was uncovered because of our chairman and his service to this committee, and I want to thank him because he's uncovered a lot, especially during the last administration, where many of our federal agencies went far off their mission. And I believe we wouldn't have as much information as we do if it wasn't for our esteemed chairman. So I wanted to publicly thank him. And being the newest member of Judiciary, I am so grateful to be here because sometimes I'm wondering if some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle don't know what they're talking about, or if they're ill-intentioned and purposefully trying to gaslight not just the American public, but other people in law enforcement and agencies that you're working with. So as a former attorney general, as a former federal prosecutor, as a former judge, as the wife of a law enforcement officer, both federal and state over the course of his career, I would like to clarify a few things and give you the opportunity to highlight some of the things that the FBI is doing. And 2 of the things I heard thrown out there, and by the way, it was when some of my colleagues would breeze in just in time to rail on you and spout out misinformation and narratives that have no grounding in reality to criminal justice, and then breezed right out as soon as they were done. And I think that it does the American public more good when the oversight function of Congress allows for you to comment in a way that makes sense and is grounded in reality. So let's first talk about the reason why we are having to reassign, not just in the FBI, but in other agencies, criminal justice agencies, federal agents to accomplish different things, as has been done historically throughout our country. When we get into office, we have to examine and triage the threats facing this nation, threats facing Americans, and then allocate resources accordingly. I guess you are to be judged negatively because you are trying to reallocate the resources of the FBI to fix what the Democratic administration prior to this under Biden broke. So let's talk about the reassignment of federal agents and why that has been necessary. Would you say that the majority of assignments has been made because we are facing unprecedented levels of violence, both because of the unvetted surge of anywhere from 11 million to 20 million people across our border in the last 4 years, and because of the woke, weak, insane policies that have been pushed into states and cities around this nation by the left?
Absolutely.
And so I hear you being grilled because you have rightfully pushed resources where they needed to go to protect the American public. And I have heard you questioned that you are in some way, and I'm going to use their words, which I don't believe is grounded in reality, that you are going to lean on local and state agents to do the job of the FBI. Might it be recharacterized more accurately in that you are partnering to try and beef up our laws with good criminal justice policies at every turn, and then come in here and get on you for, by the way, you've been here 7 months, so I know that in the 7 months, you didn't break it, they broke it over the last 4 years, but it isn't more accurate to say that you are using the federal government and its agencies, or its agents and its resources to supplement and amplify law enforcement efforts in these areas, cities and states, where the Democrat policies broke them.
It's been an integral part of my tenure to use local and state partnerships. I say it everywhere I go. We cannot do the work without partnering with state and local authorities in every single state and every single county in this country. And why we pushed out to the field is simple mathematics. While the FBI had a bloated bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., nearly 1/3 of the FBI's workforce lived and worked in the national capital region. 1/3 of the crime doesn't happen here. So I made the simple decision to move them out where the crime was happening in the field, to move out field agents, to move out intel analysts, to move out program managers. And by the way, that's what they all want to do, go out in the field and do the work. And no one's going to be punished for going out in the field and doing the work, and no one's going to be punished for wanting to stay at headquarters and help. But we needed a reallocation of assets, and that's what we did.
And from your experience, both before and now in office, have you found that many of these nonprofits have done work to undermine the stability and security of cities?
Those matters are very much ongoing, and hopefully we can report the results soon.
And I don't mean just those that may have aided and abetted or supported criminal acts. Those absolutely should be investigated and pursued to the fullest extent of the law. And I hope that we follow the money trail, as some of my colleagues have suggested. I also want to get your opinion about the nonprofits that are working to get elected and then push criminal justice policies that have made our cities and states less safe. Specifically, I'm going to push out all of the things that they espouse make the cities stronger. No cash bail. Try not to charge crimes. Don't call people offenders or felons or rapists or drug traffickers. I can go on and on and on. But the gist is, don't charge. When you do charge as minimally as you can. Don't put people on parole or probation following incarceration. Diversion should be the rule. I mean, I can go on. And we're seeing these play out in cities across our nation. I am one who believes it is always important to look at how we can do things better in our criminal justice system. But what has happened is some of these groups have hijacked that good intention by so many and used it as a way to subvert the stability of this country. And I firmly believe when that money is traced, you're going to find it's not only going not just to policies, but it's also going to pushing and promoting criminal acts. And I believe that money and support doesn't just come from infrastructure within the US, because I believe undermining our cities and this nation is something our foreign adversaries will get behind, and it will show that they are behind. Is the FBI trying in its reallocation of resources to make up and help in these areas where local law enforcement is trying its best, but it's fighting an uphill battle against mayors and city council and indeed governors that promote and support and pass laws and policies that follow these weak, insane policies?
We go into every community where the crime rates are high, and if you look across the board, the crime rates are coming down across the country because the FBI is going in there and doing good police work, and we're not going to be dictated to by mayors or governors. We have federal law enforcement capabilities and responsibilities to our citizenry, and we're executing those on every single day, including rural communities and tribal lands.
And you are, correct me if I'm wrong, welcomed and supported and enthusiastically praised by the cops that are there because they want those communities safer.
Well, I think the police speak for themselves, and we'll let them do that at their own leisure.
And one of the other gaslightings that I heard was that at a time when we're trying to help them because they're having vacancy rates and they can't retain police, and you're causing that. Is it in fact that police across this country, because they've been defunded, they're not supported, they have groups that are continuously combating when they're trying to make the communities safer? I know this because when I was the Attorney General, they all wanted to come to Florida, and I welcomed them with open arms. In fact, we are increasing our ranks in Florida, sometimes to the detriment of other cities and states because they can't keep them. They tried to make it sound like it was your fault that we had vacancies in these police ranks around the nation, when in fact, aren't you trying to help bolster their ranks and help them because they have mayors and prosecutors and city councils and governors that won't help them?
That's exactly what we did. We did it in D.C., we're doing it in Memphis, we're going to Chicago, Miami, St. Louis, so many other cities across the country.
And I'm just grateful that you are doing this, and I commend you for all the numbers that I'm seeing going after the violent crime, helping make sure we are getting the criminals that came here unvetted from other nations out of this country, that you are allocating resources to those efforts. It is all important to make this a stronger, safer nation, and we appreciate you being here today and making sure we're talking truth and not misinformation to the American people. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Before Senator Schiff, I want a UC to introduce into the record a declassified Clinton Annex. The Clinton Annex is a declassified appendix to the Justice Department Inspector General report about the Clinton email investigation. The annex shows that the FBI had evidence necessary to conduct, quote, thorough and complete investigation, end of quote. But the Comey FBI failed to review the evidence at the time. After nearly a decade in the shadows, this information has now come to light thanks to Dr. Patel, or Director Patel. Senator Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, during your confirmation hearing, you made several important commitments. For instance, you told Senator Coons there will be no politicization at the FBI. There'll be no retributive actions taken by any FBI should I be confirmed as FBI director. So let me ask you very specifically, did you ever take any action to terminate or discipline an FBI agent or employee in whole or in part as retribution for being part of an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th?
No.
You also committed, you assured Senator Blumenthal, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. So you're testifying today that you played no role in the firing of even a single FBI agent for political retribution.
None for political retribution.
And if any FBI agent said you did, they would be lying. Is that your testimony?
I'm only speaking to my actions. Everybody is allowed to make their allegations.
Oh,
I
no,
have
these are
not-
allegations against you.
And
so,
I'm-
Mr. Patel, if FBI, senior FBI agents or employees said that you were firing them for political retribution reasons because of the cases they were assigned, you're saying they would be lying. Is that your
Anyone that
testimony?
was terminated at the FBI was done so for failing to meet the standards, uphold their constitutional oath, and effectuate the mission.
Well, by meet the standards, are you talking about meet the standards of protecting the president under any circumstance?
No.
You also guaranteed Senator Blumenthal that every FBI employee will be held to the same, absolute same standard. No one will be terminated for case assignments. Are you testifying today that you never terminated anyone at the FBI, in whole or in part, because of a prior case assignment?
No one at the FBI is terminated for case assignments alone.
Well, I'm asking about you, Mr. Patel. Did you, in whole or in part, terminate anyone at the FBI because they worked on the Trump investigation or because they worked on January 6th?
No one at the FBI has been terminated for case assignments alone.
Okay, you're saying alone. Does that mean they were terminated in part because they were assigned to a January 6th case or assigned to the Mar-a-Lago case? You're being very precise here, Mr. Patel. You're saying alone. That means they were fired in part because they were assigned those cases. Is that your testimony?
Absolutely not. But if you want to keep putting words in my mouth,
then
go
let me
ahead.
ask you, let's strip away the word alone. Did you terminate or participate in any discipline of any FBI employee in whole or in part because of their work on an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th? Yes or no?
Any terminations at the FBI by employees.
No, I'm
since
asking you a very specific
And I'm
question.
going to answer the question, but you don't like the answer because it's the
No,
truth and it guts
want
your
an answer to my
narrative.
question. I don't want an answer to someone else's question. So let me just be precise, and I ask for a yes or no answer. Did you ever terminate or discipline an FBI employee in whole or in part because they had been assigned or worked on an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th?
FBI
Yes or no?
employees are only terminated
Yes
if
or
they
no,
fail
Mr.
to
Patel?
uphold their oaths of
Yes or
office
no?
and duty.
You're not
at the
answering my
FBI
question.
I
You're
don't
not
have to
answering my
answer your question yes or no because you're setting up a trap so you can have a
No,
media
I'm
narrative.
not setting up a trap.
And I'm not giving it to you.
Unless it's true that you fired people.
People
in
have
whole
been
or in part
terminated at
because
the
they-
FBI who fail to uphold
You're
the
assigned
standards
to.
that the FBI requires them to uphold.
Did you tell anyone at the FBI that all FBI employees who they identified who had worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs? Did you tell that to someone at the FBI?
Say that I would remove people for case assignments?
That people that were identified as having worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs? Did you tell that to someone at the FBI?
People are not removed
But
for
just
case
answer my
assignments.
question. Just answer my question. Did you tell that to
People
someone?
are not removed for case
No,
assignments.
you're not answering my question.
And I would
Mr.
never
Patel,
tell anyone.
Did you tell someone at the FBI that FBI employees identified as having worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs? Yes or no? Did you tell someone that?
I would never tell anyone at the FBI that they're being removed for basically their case assignments.
Okay, so anyone who said that would be lying. Is that your testimony?
Anyone can say whatever they want.
No, I know, but you're saying they were a liar.
I'm telling you what I said.
Because this is in the complaint against you, Mr. Patel. So you're saying Mr. Driscoll and others are liars?
I'm not going to address the complaint and the ongoing
Okay, well then let me ask
litigation.
you, have you ever told anyone at the FBI that the FBI tried to put the president in jail and he hasn't forgotten it, and that your job depended on the removal of agents who worked on cases against the president?
No.
Did you ever tell anyone that?
No.
Okay. Did you ever tell anyone that you knew these summary firings you were undertaking were illegal, likely illegal, and that you would be sued and later deposed? Did you ever tell anyone that?
No firings at the FBI or terminations were done for anything other than justified
Did you ever
cause.
tell anyone that, Mr.
No,
Patel? Why don't you
no
answer my question?
terminations at the FBI were ever done in my tenure for anything other than failing
Did you ever
to
tell
uphold
anyone
their
that,
oath
Mr.
of
Patel? You willing to
office
answer
or
the
their-
question?
The FBI.
I guess you're not willing to answer the
it.
question. So let me move on. Let me move on to the Epstein files. You said you're the most transparent FBI director in history, so I'm going to put you to the test. In 2024, you were asked by Glenn Beck about Epstein's Black Book. And you said, he asked, who has Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book? And you said, Black Book, FBI. And he said, but who? That is, I mean theirs. And you said, oh, that's under the direct control of the director of the FBI. That's what you said. Was that true, Mr. Patel?
I'll rely on you quoting it accurately. I did that a couple
Was
of
it
years
true
ago.
what you represented to Mr. Beck and the president's supporters out there, or were you lying?
No,
Was it true that the Black Book, Epstein's Black Book, was on was in the possession of the FBI director.
The Black Book was in the possession of the FBI.
Okay, so now that you're the FBI director, you have possession of the Black Book, right?
That index has been released.
So you have Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book?
What is known as Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book has been released by us.
And you released it. And let me follow up on Senator Kennedy's question, because he asked you, and I'll be very precise here. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself? And you said, himself, there's no credible information, none. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And Kennedy, the information we have, again, is limited. And Senator Kennedy said, the answer is no one. And you said, for the information we have. So is it your testimony today that in all of the Epstein files, that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked no one to anyone but himself? Is that your testimony, Mr.
I never
Patel?
said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic anyone else.
Did he traffic any young woman to someone other than himself? That was Mr. Kennedy's question,
And I
Senator Kennedy's
said
question.
the information that 3 administrations have had access to
I'm
have
asking
made
you-
determinations that there are no investigative leads that were credible to prosecute and investigate any others. I'm
Well,
specifically
I'm asking
stating
you whether
we
it's
were
your
working on.
testimony today.
Well, you just read
that
it, and I said it 10 minutes ago, so let the record reflect my testimony.
I just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding, because there are victims like Virginia Guifer who have testified otherwise, who have said otherwise, and you're telling the American people today that the Epstein list is a single name and it's Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we're to believe?
That's not what I'm saying. That's what you're saying, and
Well,
you
let
can
me-
say
let me
whatever
ask
you want.
Let me ask you this. When Todd Blanche went to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, she said, but did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there's no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, and some are in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers, and you know would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find out. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. And the next question Todd Blanche, the president's former criminal defense lawyer, asked is not who in the cabinet, who are you referring to? His question is, so when's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when he got a massage? So let me ask you, who are those cabinet members that Ghislaine Maxwell was referring to that, that were part of this cast of characters associated with Mr. Epstein? Who are they?
The Deputy Attorney General took the aggressive step that no one else did and interviewed Ms. Maxwell for
No, I'm
2
asking you,
days,
who are
and
the
we
ca-
released
who are
the
the cabinet
entirety
members?
of that
Who are the
transcript.
cabinet members?
I do not have that transcript in front of me. You're picking it piecemeal. The American
And-
public can
and
read the entirety
Let me
of
ask
that.
you one last question, because you clearly won't tell us the cabinet members associated with Mr. Epstein. Let me ask you one last question. And that is, right after she gives this testimony in front of an FBI agent, among others, she's transferred to a minimum security prison not suitable for a sex offender like herself. Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in.
Prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're not in
inmates.
the weeds?
What I am
The
doing is
most-
protecting
the
this country,
most- the
providing
most
historic
significant
reform,
witness,
and
the most
combating the
significant witness,
weaponization of
the
intelligence
Epstein
by the likes
files
of you.
cover-up,
And we have
gets
countlessly proven you to
from
be a
your
liar in
participation,
Russiagate, in
and you
January
call that
6th.
being
You are
in
the
the
biggest
weeds?
fraud to ever sit in the
This
United States
stinks to
Senate.
high
You are a
heaven.
disgrace to this
This stinks to high
institution
heaven.
and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not
I'm
surprised
not
that you continue to
surprised
lie
that the-
from
the-
your
that
perch
the-
and put on a show
view
so you can go
of you
raise money
well,
for your
and for good
charade.
reason.
You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take
and
it
make-
to
you
the
can
bank
take an
that the
internet-
FBI is
you
protecting
can
this
make an
country
internet troll.
and the state and
The FBI
citizens of the
director
California.
will
We
always
are
be
bringing
nothing more
historic
than an
reform.
internet
Historic.
troll. Point of order.
But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
You said
take
I'm the
control
most
of this
transparent
situation.
FBI director in history.
Take control of this
33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Both of you be quiet. Before I go to Senator Tillis, without objection, I want to introduce into the record the Durham Annex. The Durham Annex is a declassified appendix to John Durham's report about Crossfire Hurricane. The Durham Annex contains information exposing a reported Clinton campaign plan to falsely tie President Trump to Russia. For years, I've fought to assemble and publicize all the facts